That's right. It is 104.3 The Fans pregame live. Cecil and Mase, Andrew Mason. Mase, you are on assignment. You're at Empire Field, and we'll keep you for just a little bit, brother, and then I'll get to some things I got to get off my brain. But the lead is Brett Rypien starting. As we've talked about on Orange and Blue today, what does that mean for the Broncos?
You know what? I think it means that you're going to see an offense that maybe looks a little bit more like Nathaniel Hackett's initial design. I think Brett Rypien is going to play very much on schedule, very much within the structure of the play design. And frankly, I'm curious to see how this looks. If this Broncos offense is more effective with a quarterback who does kind of stay within structure, stay within the lines, and maybe is able to see a little bit more in terms of those short routes across the middle that clearly Russell Wilson is having trouble seeing right now. So I don't dismiss the possibility, Cecil, this offense ends up being more effective with Brett Rypien, at least in the short term.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean much of anything because Russell Wilson's hurt, and I've got 250 million reasons why there's no quarterback controversy. But I agree with you. Like, Brett Rypien will be what do coaches love? They love a guy that's going to do exactly what they want him to do. That's exactly who Brett Rypien is.
Right, and the question then becomes, can he do it well enough to sustain it? And that's where you look back at his first start a couple of years ago when he did some good things and he had some nice downfield throws. Everyone remembers the one to Jerry Jeudy for a touchdown, but the one I recall is the one to Tim Patrick late in the fourth quarter down the left sideline on third down. And then he puts a lot of zip on that ball. It's a nice throw. And it came after a period where he had 2 interceptions in 4 passes. Now, that's where the concern kind of comes in, is that the Jets kind of clearly figured him out. They knew where Brett Rypien was going to throw the ball, and they were reacting accordingly. They had 2 picks in the fourth quarter, another one earlier in the game. Probably could have had at least 1 or 2 more. So has Brett Rypien improved in that regard in his ability to not kind of lock in onto a receiver and not tip his hand? We'll see. There was promising stuff in the preseason, but as I was telling a friend in the press box not long ago, you weren't throwing against a defensive backfield that had Sauce Gardner like you're going to throw at today.
Right. They're going to go after him with that pass rush as well. We can break it all down. It is 104.3 The Fans pregame live. Again, keeping Andrew Mason for just a little bit here because he is on assignment. And with a 2:05 start, it's weird, dude. Yeah. Like, why isn't it 2:25? That's what we're used to, 2:25.
Yeah, the 05 starts means that you're somewhere down the priority list, right? Because it means that you are part of a single header for a network, and those 05 starts, those 2:05 starts, they're kind of throwaways. Although what happens, Cecil, is that the Broncos-Jets game, this game actually gets on in some places where, like for example, in Tampa, where they have the option of a 1 p.m. Eastern or a 4:05 Eastern game on CBS. They don't want to compete with the Bucs playing the Panthers. And so in Tampa, they can watch this game, but only because the CBS affiliate said, we'd rather just take our chances with Broncos Jets rather than run a better game at the same time as the Panthers Bucs game. So but that's the interesting thing about it. It's like when you're an 05 game, you're kind of filling, right?
Yeah.
You're not a prime game when you're a 2:05 game.
Yeah, and Tampa, we're sorry. But that leads me to the next topic of conversation, Mase, is like, what are the fan reaction? I know you just got there, but like any sort of feel or vibe, everyone talk about no-shows or Jets fans or whatever. What's kind of the vibe at the stadium right now?
Well, it's pretty muted. There are a lot of Jets fans here. The Jets fans are understandably feeling their oats. They're 4-2, feeling very good. I checked this morning over on Ticketmaster. The buy-in price was $40, which not as bad as some games last year. The buy-in price at one point for the Bengal game was $25.
Wow.
But 40 is still pretty low for a Broncos game day for you to get in, get a couple of seats. Yeah, they're up in the 500 level, but still, I mean that tells you about kind of the general attitude toward this team. And then on top of everything else, the thing I noticed is that for the first time this season, in the other games, and you've had primetime games for a couple of the other games, but for the first time this season, Cecil, really not a lot of traffic when I drove to the stadium. It was 3 hours before kickoff, but usually you start hitting a fair amount of traffic once you, when you're driving north on 25. Once you get to about Broadway, you start getting backed up. Not today. It was smooth sailing all the way into the parking lot.
It is 104.3 The Fans pregame live. He is Andrew Mason live on the scene. Mace, before I let you out of here, we will talk more about this on Orange and Blue today. Okay, so we got plenty to talk about because I don't think anyone's getting traded overnight. So tomorrow, but the big news, the Russell Wilson thing broke Saturday. We're already used to that. But now the big news today is Bradley Chubb, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, all three fielding phone calls for them, and they are on the trade block. Thoughts about the news today that, took Broncos country by storm?
Well, look, they're receiving calls. It doesn't mean they're necessarily doing anything at this point. That's the thing. Yeah, there are always calls floating out there. Right now, nothing is in the works at this point. But if they lose one of the next two games and they're coming into the trade deadline at 3-5, I think then you start kind of thinking long and hard about some deals, maybe involving if you're 2-6, lose the next two games, maybe even involving Bradley Chubb at that point. But just because they're receiving calls doesn't mean that anything is imminent. That's something that could be very much predicated on the results we see in the next week or so, both today and against the Jaguars. So stay tuned.
Yeah, right now it's like Pawn Stars, right? Best I could do is $50. Like, best I could do is a fifth rounder. Like, teams are feeling out the Broncos. How much do you really want to get rid of Bradley Chubb or Jerry Jeudy or KJ Hamler? Again, we will talk about it on Orange and Blue today. That is 3:30. Yes.
And one thing on Chubb, real quick, don't forget the Broncos have the option of the franchise tag going into the offseason on Chubb. So it's not as simple as, he's going to walk in free agency. There are other elements to him in particular.
He is Andrew Mason, ladies and gentlemen. Follow him at Mase Denver. Mace, we will see you tomorrow. Have fun at the game, buddy.
All right, you take care. Have a great one, Cecil.
All right, there is Andrew Mason. There he goes. It is 104.3 The Fans pregame live, and I'm going to carry you the rest of the way here as we promised you 15 minutes, and we're going to give you 15 minutes. Mason's got to go because it's a 2:05 start, scheduling conflicts and all of that. I wrote my game plan at denverfan.com. You can check it out right now. I've retweeted it and posted it on Facebook. So it's out there on social networking. But in the Broncos game plan, the answer is simple. Run the ball, stop the run. Now, it's simple to say that. It's difficult to do that. I had a question this morning on Twitter about the Jets backfield. Like, what do you think of the Jets backfield? They're excellent. Breece Hall is now one of the best running backs in the game, and he's only been in the league for 6 weeks, and he's only really started taking off over the last 3 weeks. There's a 3-week window for the Jets that has been very good, where they've been undefeated, and they've been leaning on Breece Hall, not even necessarily as a runner. It was a couple of weeks ago against Miami, where he had a 79-yard reception. He had 2 catches for 100 yards, and he almost had 100 yards on the ground, and I believe he had a rushing touchdown in that game, top of my head. But Breece Hall can do it as a runner, can do it as a receiver, and even though he's a power back, he's also a large back with patience, quick feet, burst, and long speed. He's the complete package at the running back position. He was my number 2 running back this year, only behind Kenneth Walker with Seattle, but it was, a real close call for both of those backs who I'd graded as first-round picks. The Jets are happy to get Hall in the second round. He's basically kind of their version of Javonte Williams, in what Javonte Williams could have been had the Broncos ever used him right, because they never have. And now with Javonte's injury, he'll probably never be the same again. So if you want to wonder what would Javonte Williams look like with a true workload, watch Breece Hall. That's what he'd look like. And the answer is he'd look pretty flippin' good, because Hall is that sort of player. And again, going to my game plan at denverfan.com, you see that patience in the allowing of blocks to develop in front of him and that not wasting any time. Like, this is a guy that doesn't dance, but he's not just a bull in a china cabinet, right? China cupboard, where he just gets the ball and he runs right into the back of his blockers. We've seen that before with plenty of backs in the NFL. What you get with Breece Hall is you get a very patient runner who sets up his blocks. And it's not only just waiting for the blocks to develop, but it's also linebackers are taught to look for shoulders, right? And there's such a thing as run to daylight. Well, you have to create your own daylight. You have to create your own space. Sometimes you do it with power. Sometimes you do it with nuance. So watch Hall, and he'll like show a shoulder, and the linebacker will peek and like, oh, there he's coming over here, and then he'll cut back. So he's very nuanced with his body movement, his body control. Usually, is a term we use almost exclusively for wide receivers, but no, Breece Hall's got it all. Behind him, Michael Carter is really good as well. Javonte Williams' teammate at North Carolina. They both came out into the NFL last year. So Michael Carter has speed, electricity, footwork, great receiver. Like, he's not the power back that you see with Breece Hall, but he's also a very dangerous runner. So you've got two backs to be concerned with. There was at one point, it was after the first 3 weeks. Again, the last 3 weeks have been different from the first 3 weeks. It's like the Jets have played two different seasons this year. But there was one time where Tyler Conklin was the number 3 fantasy tight end. Now, not so much. His usage has dropped over the last 3 weeks as the team just isn't passing the ball very much. When they do, Corey Davis is their number 1. Garrett Wilson, rookie from Ohio State, first-round pick, he's their number 2, but he's got the ability of a number 1. The kid's legit, tons of speed. But if they're not relying on Zach Wilson, which they shouldn't and they won't against this Broncos defense, which can get after the passer, which Wilson is, he sees ghosts. I mean, worse than Sam Darnold, former Jets first-round pick. Zach Wilson sees ghosts, so all he has to do is feel a little bit of pressure, and then he's going to be getting rid of the ball. He's going to be bailing on plays, bailing on reads, instead of having the stick-to-itiveness to stand within the pocket and strong and tall. Wilson just gives it up. Like, he runs around. He gets really timid with the rush. So the Broncos have an advantage there, but the Jets have the advantage if they don't have to use him. What did he throw last game? 14 times, 18 times, whatever the number was. Like, yeah, they don't have to throw a whole lot. They won't throw a whole lot. They shouldn't throw a whole lot. When they do, it's going to be against Damari Mathis. Mathis did play with confidence. I appreciate that, but the 4 pass interference penalties last time out against the Chargers don't bode well for his film study. When you're studying the Broncos defense, you're going to avoid Pat Surtain, who's probably covering Corey Davis, which means Garrett Wilson. Elijah Moore, who's very explosive. Not a great route runner yet, but you have explosive playmakers with speed that the Jets have at the wide receiver position. They have very dangerous running backs. Their offensive line is getting it done, even though they've had multiple injuries on the offensive line. Injuries are just an excuse for some. For other teams, they get their injuries and they kind of move on. Next man up mentality. That's what the Jets have done. On the defensive side of the ball, Quinnen Williams, he's a defensive tackle that leads the team in sacks. He is a monster. He's a beast of a man who will pressure Brett Rypien all day. Now, Rypien, much like a Zach Wilson, is the type of player, well, you're going to rattle him. Pressure makes every quarterback look mortal. Look at Tommy Brady, what he's doing today against Carolina. It's not as much as he could be doing because Carolina's, giving it up. They're selling out to get after the quarterback. Well, when you do that, and if the Jets do that, they have playmakers at every single level. Mase brought up Sauce Gardner, rookie cornerback, who is their version of Pat Surtain. I mean, Sauce is that good. Surtain's one of the best in the league already. Sauce is proving to be almost as good as Tariq Woolen. There you go. I got in my Tariq Woolen love in this program. By the way, Isaiah Pacheco starting for the Chiefs. I'm never going to let it go. Anyway, I look at this team with the Broncos. You need to run the ball, and I don't care if it's Melvin Gordon. He's starting. Outrage. I don't wake up every day and decide what I'm going to be outraged about. And it just seems like, oh, I'm so mad. Like, yeah, Melvin Gordon started last game, and he had, 3 carries, whatever, in the second half. Like, yeah, we didn't run a lot of plays. Nathaniel Hackett, stop lying. Broncos fans aren't stupid, okay? Stop lying. We didn't have a lot of plays. There's only 32. It's only half, Eddie, of what normal teams get in a full game. Like, you were on pace to have the normal number of plays. Didn't run a lot of plays. Nathaniel Hackett, stop lying. Call a better damn game plan. And that means run the ball. Take the ball out of the hands of Brett Rypien. You don't need to see Brett Rypien, and he'll do security blanket stuff to Greg Dulcich, like a little bit of Cortland Sutton, maybe some Jerry Jeudy, featuring him for a trade. Oh, God, whatever. Just win. For the love of God, win. And I don't even care if that means Melvin Gordon gets 20 carries for 100 yards. I don't care at all. Just get the win. And we'll see if the Broncos can do that against the Jets. Got halftime chill coming up at halftime. And then, of course, 104.3 The Fans post-game show. Rachel V. Hill, D-Mac, live from Empower Field at Mile High. I am Cecil and Mase saying enjoy your 2:05 kickoff, Broncos country. Let's hide, or let's ride, or let's rip today. How about that? Let's rip. Get it done. Stay tuned, and be safe, be kind, know that you're appreciated, and stay frosty.